All right. So today the court ruled, and as we have been saying from the beginning, you cannot violate the Constitution in order to change the Constitution. The Supreme Court made that clear. The referendum was a violation of the Constitution, and as a result, it is null and void. The congressional districts that were drawn by the Supreme Court in 2021 are the congressional districts that will continue to be in place going forward.
The Democratic statements really saying that the Supreme Court is overturning the will of the voters. The justices who voted to overturn sort of addressed that in their decision that it shouldn't matter the margin of victory. Can you sort of speak to what's being said on the other side of the decision?
The other side asked the court not to rule before the election. And then after the election, they asked the court not to rule on the Constitution because the election had occurred. Whether the Constitution was followed should not matter whether there was an election or not. The other side's argument is that even if you violate the Constitution, you can never overturn it because there's election. That's just not what the law is. The law is you cannot violate the Constitution in order to change the Constitution. The Supreme Court made that clear today, and we're happy with their ruling.
Are you at all worried about how voters will react in future elections to this vote or to this decision? Who should voters point to?
Voters had a choice of what was on the ballot. Voters did not have a choice of whether the constitutional law was followed. That's for a separate branch of government, the Supreme Court, and they made that decision today.
Do you read it to impact the other referendums that are set for later this year?
The other referendums went through the process that was normally done. They were voted on in a regular session. They were voted on prior to any votes being taken for an election of the House delegates, and then they were voted on in the next regular session.
How do you feel generally? Like, personally, do you feel vindicated? Are you happy about this?
Personally, it's been a busy day. I've been to multiple courthouses already. So we are happy that the process has now come to a conclusion, and it is clear that what we were arguing from the beginning, you can't violate the Constitution in order to change the Constitution. So we do feel, I don't know that I would say we feel vindicated. We feel like the court got the decision right, that they read the law, they looked at the Constitution, and they followed the Constitution.
A lot of the argument was that not in the actual ruling, but the 10-1 map would disenfranchise rural voters and Republican voters. What does it mean to voters in rural Virginia and Republican areas now that they'll have a map that is a little more reflective of the Commonwealth?
So those are arguments that were not made in our legal case. They were made in other venues. We have always argued that districts, whether they're congressional or for the House or the Senate, should be done where communities of interest stay together. The maps that were being put forward did not keep communities of interest together, put votes in control of one portion of the state, not in places where people lived and were actually voting. So we're happy about that. But this Supreme Court ruling did not opine on that. That was not the legal case that we sued on. We said you have to follow the Constitution. And the Constitution requires these things to be in place. And if you don't do it, then you can't change it.
This is against the broader backdrop of what's going on elsewhere in the country with redistricting. I can't remember if it was you specifically, but others had said we shouldn't be doing this. We should be caring what other states are doing to this. With this decision, or should you be calling on the Republican-led states to end their redistricting ahead of the midterms this close?
So I certainly said from the beginning that we should not be doing this. If states are redoing their districts because the Supreme Court told them they had done it wrong, that's certainly one thing. I think that we have seen a number of states, particularly Democratic states like California, Illinois, Massachusetts, Maryland, that have disenfranchised Republicans through their redistricting, and they have done it every time they redistricting. We decided in Virginia, we're not going to do that anymore, that we are not going to gerrymander, that we're going to do it in a way that creates districts for all Virginians. I'm happy with Virginia's process. I will continue to advocate for Virginia's process, and I think other states will be well suited if they turn to our process.
Can you backtrack a little bit? So this case was first brought in October of last year, correct? Is that, or am I getting those confused?
We did not bring it until after
The first
the,
vote?
after the vote. So
Okay. Can you talk a bit about how that came together? Like, was it? I know it was you and the minority leaders also were plaintiff, right? Can you talk about sort of like, kind of lift the curtain a bit about like how you all sort of put that together and how the legal challenge came about?
we have a number of attorneys in our caucus that are very good. I really want to give a shout out to Senator Sturtevant. He was key and kind of led point on my legal group. Senator Stanley was also very involved, as was Senator Obenshain. Senator Sturtevant really did a lot of the hefty lifting. We had a lot of conversations, spent a lot of hours, looked at a lot of law, reviewed a lot of briefs. This was a tremendous amount of effort that went in to crafting this. But the legal arguments appeared to be very clear to us. And if you remember, we filed 4 legal arguments. The trial court agreed with us on 3 of those legal arguments. The Supreme Court sustained or rejected the appeal on 1 and specifically said that they were not opining on the other 2. I think all 3 of the legal arguments that went to the Supreme Court are solid legal arguments, and we should have won on those. All 3 of them. Court only made a ruling on 1 of them.
Any concern, or what's your strategy if Democrats decide that they want to pass the amendment the second time the right way and could implement a new map in 2028?
So if the Democrats want to pass it the right way and they want to follow the Constitution, that is certainly their right. We set up a way to change the Constitution. So we said the Constitution is really important. We want it to be the backbone to how we do law, how we live in our society. We recognize that sometimes you need to review that document and change it, but you have to do it in the right way. It has to be very deliberate. You can't cut corners. You can't go around the process to change it. If they want to go through that, I'll advocate in the same forums that they should not change it. But if they do it legally and it gets on the ballot, I won't be filing a lawsuit to challenge it.
Is there a legal leg to stand on? Leader Jeffries, A.G. Jones has said they're looking at all options to challenge this. Is there any way feasible that they could, appeal to the Supreme Court of the U.S.?
If this is appealed to the United States Supreme Court, I think we'll win by an even wider margin. We were right on the law. The court ruled in a way that was correct on the law. I am certain that people who do not like the fact that the Constitution is now being required to be followed in order to change the Constitution will look for other avenues, and we'll argue those in court. I don't have any concerns. Before y'all go, because you always ask me, or at least Dave always asks me, you do, Cameron, do I have anything else to say? I want to remind y'all that there are 55 days which have passed since Virginia has not met its constitutional requirement to pass a budget. There are 53 days left until Virginians will have no state budget and they will be losing state services. We are laser focused on making sure that Virginians' lives are more affordable, and we are continuing to fight against higher taxes in everybody's paycheck, higher cost in their power bills, and in all directions making life more economical for people. We hope that our Democratic friends will get to the table and meet. We need to have a budget. Virginia should have a budget. We should not have had to wait 2 months to be having these conversations.
Do you think there are concerns that the lead Senate negotiator was raided by the FBI 2 days ago and that impact on this?
I think regardless of any individual in the process, there have been 55 days which have occurred, which from what I can tell, there have been few, if any, meetings at all. We should be meeting and we should come up with the state budget regardless of how many people are at the table.